Hello. Welcome to Crime in Court. My name is Heather, and this is part two of the motion to change venue, which just came out last week from the defense for Idaho versus Bryan Kohberger. This is obviously in regards to the University of Idaho quadruple homicide. So, Brian Kohberger's attorney, Ann Taylor, recently filed this document. It's a 319-page document. We're going through it. The rest of it should go a lot faster because it's press releases and there's repetitive information, things that we can skip through. So, it shouldn't be as lengthy, or, we'll get through it a little bit faster than the first part there. So, where, whoops, that's the Birchmore series I'm doing. So we left off, we read through her motion to change venue and all the reasons why the population is just, increasing the population, the jury pool isn't going to help because it's just saturated in that area. So many people in that tiny little town, and they all know the things. So it's very difficult to go somewhere in Latah County in order to find a fair trial for Brian Kohberger. So her motion is obviously we need to go outside of Latah in order to proceed because of all of these reasons. And there are many, many reasons that she attached to her filing, which are all the city of Moscow press releases. So this is basically, we're kind of going through a chronological report of how everything was reported in this case regarding regarding coming from the police. Easy for me to say. I'm struggling right now. I'm trying to do 13 things at once. All right. Hold on one second. All right, I think that's better. I had to readjust here a little bit. All right, so we're just going to continue on with where we left off. So we are now at November 20th. Remember, the incident took place November 13th, 2022. All right, so this again, the majority of these are all press releases from the city of Moscow. So we're reading it kind of in real time, chronologically, as the investigation develops and what information is released to the media. Some of it may or may not even be true. So let's continue reading on. So this is November 20th, and Moscow, Idaho. The Moscow Police Department is providing the following information to update the public on the known facts surrounding the four homicides that occurred on November 13th in Moscow, Idaho. This is the updated information. Detectives are releasing that on the morning of November 13th, the surviving roommates summoned friends to their residence. I mean, we know a lot of this stuff now, but we didn't know this at the time. We're learning it in real time. It's evolving. The way that she put these documents together, it's kind of cool to read it as it evolves, as the investigation progresses, I guess. So these friends were summoned to the residence because they believed one of the second floor victims had passed out and was not waking up. Hence the unresponsive person that they called for. At 11:58 a.m., a 911 call requested aid for an unconscious person. The call originated from inside the residence on one of the surviving roommates' cell phones. Multiple people talked with the 911 dispatcher before a Moscow police officer arrived at the location. This 911 call has not been released to the public, so we do not know who talked to the police. Why? It's very curious. Usually 911 calls are released to the public early on. Don't know why this one wasn't. We have not heard it. We don't know who exactly called. We don't know why these people were summoned to the house instead of police. And all of that. So, anyways, multiple people talked to the dispatcher. Officers entered the residence and found the four victims on the second and third floors. At this time in the investigation, detectives do not believe any individual at the residence when 911 was called is involved in the crime. How do they know that at this point? So it took them what, 7 days to figure out, 6 days, 7 days to figure out that the other people in the house weren't involved, even though their stories don't jive. Rumors and speculation continue circulating about the ongoing investigation. MPD cautions the public not to rely on rumors and remains committed to keeping the public informed. We urge reliance on official channels for accurate information. Tips. Detectives are looking for context to the events and people involved in these homicides. Anyone who observed notable behavior, has video surveillance, or can provide relevant information is asked to call the tip line. Press releases go through the listserv. You can sign up for them and it gives you information on how to do that. You can also go to their Facebook page, blah, 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 blah. Okay. And that's enough of that. All right. And then this is the original um like the original information that they put out in the press release, which is what we know already. On the evening of the 12th, Kaylee and Madison were at the bar, the corner club. They went to the grub truck. We know Ethan and Zaina were at uh, this Sigma Chi house. And then everybody was home by approximately 1:45, which I find odd that that is like the same time for both parties. They all got home by 1:45. I don't believe that they all actually arrived at 1:45. I think somebody's misinterpreting or forgot the time, or I don't know, or they're just saying, yeah, they were home by that time. So everybody was home by 1:45 and just doing a general, everybody was home then. But I don't remember what time somebody got home. It just seems like it seems odd to me. There are no coincidences. I'll say that. I don't believe in coincidences. It's not a coincidence that these both say 1:45. Think of that what you will, but that's what I take of that. So they believed, what does it say? Okay, so the two surviving roommates had also been out that night separately, were home by 1. They did not wake up, according to this. Um, all right, so that's the gist of it. We don't need to go over all of it. I just wanted to recap some of it in case you guys forgot what was out there first. All right, so the next press release is November 21st. So again, they're going with almost daily press releases on this, and it's coming in full force. Everybody's interested in this topic. They're all trying to find out who the perpetrator is, and the fact that Moscow police is putting a press release out every day is making them hungry for even more information because they give it little by little here. So, the Moscow Police Department is providing the following information to update the public on the known facts surrounding the four homicides that occurred on November 13th. Digital media tips can be sent to the FBI. They're accepting tips. Anyone with information can call the tip line or email them here. I'm not going to repeat that. All right. On the night, you guys can see it on the screen. On the night of the incident, officers located a dog at the residence. So, this is the first time we're hearing about the dog? I don't think so. I think we knew about the dog before, but this is the first time they're at least putting it in a press release. The dog was unharmed and turned over to Animal Services. What was his name? Murphy, right? I can't remember. Um, and then released to so he was turned over to Animal Services and then released to the responsible party. That's so sad. Um, I wonder who has the dog now. Do we know? Is it the boyfriend, the ex-boyfriend of Kaylee's, or is it Kaylee's family. Does someone in Kaylee's family have the dog? Rumor control. Detectives are aware of a Latah County Sheriff's Office incident of the report of a skinned dog and have determined it is unrelated to this incident. That happened, I believe, days before the incident at the University of Idaho. Somebody's pet was unalived and skinned. It's awful, just awful. Detectives are also aware of a Moscow police incident of the report of deceased animals left on the resident's property. This was determined to be wildlife activity and unrelated to the incident. I don't know about that. They tell you there's a news conference, press releases, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so that is, this is new, isn't it? This says original information, but this is talking about the autopsies. Did we talk about the autopsies? Yeah, we did. I did read that before. Detectives are also seeking, this is new. Detectives are also seeking outside surveillance video from 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. on Sunday, November 13th from businesses and residences within the geographical area listed below. Detectives request all available videos, whether these appear to be motion and content or not, whether there appears to be motion and content or not. So they want videos from West Taylor Avenue, West Palouse River Drive, Highway 95 South to the 2700 block of Highway 95 South, the Arboretum and Botanical Garden. Additionally, detectives seek additional tips and surveillance video of any observed suspicious behavior on the night of November 12th into the early hours of November 13th while Kaylee Gonzalez and Madison Mogan were in downtown Moscow and when Ethan Chapin and Xana Kernodle were at the Sigma Chi House. Anyone who observed suspicious behavior near those areas or has video surveillance are asked to submit their tips. At this investigation, or at this time in the investigation, detectives do not believe the following are involved in the crime. So by November 21st, they're already excluding the two surviving roommates, the male in the grub truck surveillance video, and the private party driver who took Kaylee and Madison home on November 13th. So within 7, 8 days, they were already declaring that these people are innocent or not involved, at least not involved, which everyone's a suspect until they're not. Am I right? When you're doing an investigation like this, especially people that saw them that night or had any interactions with them. So how are they just cleared like that? Not to say that any of them did it, but I'm just saying, how did they know to clear, like, how could they clear them so quickly? Additional information related to this investigation. The identity of the 911 caller has not been released, nor has the 911 call. Investigators are aware of multiple phone calls from victims Madison and Kaylee to a male. I believe that was to Jack Decor, right? Uh, it, because I don't focus on Idaho 4 like as intensely as I used to, I've like lost all the details in my mind, but they used to be there. I used to follow this case like I was obsessed with it for ever. And then I started doing this channel and I just got sidetracked in doing other videos, Karen Reed really took precedence. So that's kind of been my main focus. But um this is uh, one of the ones that really intrigues me. One of the cases that intrigues me because I just don't understand how one person could come in, do what they did to four individuals, subdue four individuals, and leave two surviving roommates. It just doesn't. It baffles my mind. It doesn't make sense. I understand the whole Ted Bundy and his sorority house thing, but it just doesn't make sense to me. Um, and Ted Bundy was seen. So he was seen and caught because of, his the people that identified him. They were able to go to court and testify against him. Anyways, so where was I? Online investigators are aware of multiple phone calls between Madison and Kaylee to this male. Online reports of the victims being tied and gagged are not accurate, so they want you to know that. Detectives seized the contents of 3 dumpsters on King Road to locate possible evidence. Okay, local businesses were contacted to determine if a fixed blade knife had been recently purchased. What about like local uh, places in the area to look, like near the home where someone might have dropped the blade or, ditched it in a bush or something? Did they even do that? Currently, no suspects are in custody and no weapon has been located. On Still no weapon has been located, but now we have a suspect. On the morning of November 13th, the surviving roommates summoned friends to the residence because they believed one of the second floor victims had passed out and was not waking up. At 11:58 a.m., a 911 call requested aid for an unconscious person. The call originated from inside the residence on one of the surviving roommates' cell phones. Multiple people talked with the 911 dispatcher. Officers entered the residence and found the 4 victims on the second and third floor. At this time of the investigation, detectives do not believe any individual at the residence when 911 was called was involved or is involved in the crime. To date, there are nearly 600 tips that we have received. All tips are processed, vetted, investigated, and cleared. 38 interviews have been conducted with individuals who may have information about the homicides. Moscow Police Department is utilizing assistance from the Idaho State Police, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and the Latah County Sheriff's Office. And that's a breakdown. So they got 4 detectives, 24 patrol officers, and 5 support staff from Moscow Police Department. And the FBI has 22 investigators in Moscow, 20 assigned agents located out of the Treasure Valley, Idaho area, Salt Lake City, and West Virginia, 2 behavior analysts units, and then Idaho State Police, 20 investigators, 15 troopers, public information officer, ISP forensic services and mobile crime scene team, and 15 uniformed troopers to assist with community patrols. That's a lot. With all those people, they couldn't do a better investigation. They couldn't have had, a more rock solid case. This is just different, the way that they just formatted it differently, but it is still a news release from the City of Moscow Police Department. We have now moved on to November 22nd. Again, notice that we're going almost daily now for press releases. Monday evening, Blaine Street incident update. Just before 5:15 p.m. last night, 911 received a call reporting suspicious activity in the 600 block of Blaine Street. A female caller informed the dispatcher that she saw a male in the front passenger seat of her vehicle when she opened the car door. The female, who was with her sister, slammed the car door and ran screaming for the car and called 911. Multiple neighbors heard the girls screaming and came to assist. They checked the area but did not find anyone. The neighbors told responding officers that they had not seen anyone in or exit the vehicle. A passerby informed the sisters of seeing a male chasing them and left before speaking with officers. They were unable to confirm these details, and the officer was unaware of this information during the time of the call. That's scary, man. Police checked the area. Officers contacted a male matching the description, but learned that he and a friend had just returned from a restaurant, and the male approached the sisters to help. The male withdrew and waited to talk with officers when accused of being involved. Based on their knowledge of the time, officers closed the incident as unfounded. The term is used to close an incident that cannot be initially substantiated. However, if additional information is obtained, the incident can be reopened. Okay, what does that have to do with? I mean, I guess since it's like recent in time, it might, um, people might believe that it could be Kohberger because of the relation in time. All right, so same day, November 22nd, the Moscow Police Department is providing the following information to update the public on the facts surrounding the four homicides that occurred on November 13th. Updated information. Hold on. Sorry. All right, so updated information resource webpage. A new webpage on the City of Moscow website has been set up as a consolidated location for information resources related to the investigation. Okay. Investigators have looked extensively into information they received about Kaylee Gonzalez having a stalker. They have pursued hundreds of pieces of information related to this topic and have not been able to verify or identify a stalker. If you have information that can help detectives, please call the tip line. The weapon. There has been much conversation about the terminology used to describe the weapon. The type of knife thought to be used in the attacks is believed to be a fixed blade knife. Detectives continue to look for the weapon. We only know that because, well, due to the injuries and because there was a knife sheath that was found, a K-bar knife sheath that was found at the scene under Kaylee. All right, moving on to the next day, November 23rd. The Moscow Police Department is providing the following information to update the public on the known facts surrounding the homicides. Updated information. At this time in the investigation, detectives do not believe the male Kaylee and Madison attempted to contact numerous times on November 13th is involved in this crime. So again, they're just clearing the boyfriend willy-nilly there. Kaylee mentioned having a stalker, but detectives have been unable to corroborate the statement. Investigators are requesting anyone with information about a potential stalker or unusual instances to contact the tip line. Throughout the investigation, investigators have collected 103 pieces of evidence, taken approximately 4,000 photographs, made multiple three-dimensional scans of the residence, and hundreds of hours of ISP forensic science technicians and investigators. 103 pieces of evidence for a scene like this, a quadruple homicide, that's nothing. You would expect to have between probably like 150 to 300 pieces of evidence collected per scene. So, like per floor, probably. I mean, you would think that there would be more pieces of evidence collected. Tips. Detectives are looking for context to the events and people involved in these homicides. Anyone who observed notable behavior, has video surveillance, and can provide relevant information, call the tip line. Now let's skip to the next day. All right, November 25th. There have been numerous media inquiries about a 1999 double stabbing in Pullman, Washington, and the 2021 double stabbing with one loss of life in Salem, Oregon. While these cases share similarities with the King Street homicides, there does not appear to be any evidence to support the cases are related. Community members have uploaded over 260 digital media submissions to the FBI link. To date, 113 pieces of physical evidence have been collected and sent to the Idaho State Police Crime Lab for processing and analysis. Again, that's not enough. Governor Brad Little has directed up to $1 million in state emergency funds for the ongoing investigation. What? When does a governor ever do that? Here's $1 million. Go investigate. What? University of Idaho is hosting a candlelight vigil Wednesday, November 30th to honor the memory of Ethan, Xana, Madison, and Kaylee. University of Idaho has established a Vandal family support resource page for their students, and I believe Vandal is their team mascot or whatever. That's what they are. They call themselves. All right, so at this time, no suspect has been identified, and only vetted information that does not hinder the investigation will be released to the public. There is speculation without factual backing, stoking community fears and spreading false facts. We encourage referencing official releases for accurate information and updated progress. Alrighty. You know what I mean? We'll go faster because we get to skip through all these pages. All right, so November 27th. Community members have uploaded over 488 digital media submissions to the FBI link. We understand there is a sense of fear within our community. Since November 13th, the department has received 78 calls for unusual circumstances and 36 requests to check the welfare of loved ones, an increase from 70 to 18 respectively for all of the month of October. As officers respond to these incidents, they find that concerned parties call friends and family before notifying the police. Wait, if they're saying that that was all from October, then how can they say that that has anything to do with the homicides? Right? I mean, these 78 calls for unusual circumstances, welfare checks increased from 70 and 18. Okay, that's the police's job, regardless of whether this homicide took place. So, what? I don't know what their point is here. Um, before before notifying 911, make sure it's an emergency. That's what they're telling you. University of Idaho is hosting candlelight vigil. We know that already. At this time, no suspect. Okay, this is all repetitive. Like I said, there's a lot of repetitive stuff. All right, November 28th. There have been media questions regarding a February 2022 loss of life on Baker Street. The Latah County Coroner's Office has confirmed that the loss of life was due to an overdose. This case is not related to the ongoing homicide investigation. There have been online reports of a red Mustang on South Deacon Street being processed as part of the homicide investigation. This information is not accurate and the vehicle is not connected to this incident. Like, why are they even telling all these things to the public? This is so much information. Most of the time, you don't hear any of this stuff. Why are they even bothering to update the public with a lot of this stuff? It seems like it's just inflating the community's worries by putting out a public statement every day about it. I don't know. All right, so November 29th, today, as part of the ongoing homicide investigation and original search warrant, detectives relocated 5 vehicles from within the police perimeter to a more secure long-term storage location to continue processing evidence. Continue sending your tips, and that was all. That was all they had in that particular one. All right, so November 30th, clarification at 7:15 p.m. Conflicting information has been released over the past 24 hours. The Latah County Prosecutor's Office stated the suspects specifically looked at this residence and that one or more of the occupants were undoubtedly targeted. We have spoken with the Latah County Prosecutor's Office and identified this was a miscommunication. Detectives do not currently know if the resident or any occupants were specifically targeted, but continue to investigate. So weird that they're putting all these statements out there. Is it not? All right. So there have been media questions about a September 12th, 2022 incident regarding an argument between a group of people walking on the University of Idaho bike path and a cyclist. It was reported that during the confrontation, the cyclist displayed a folding knife. Both parties dispersed, and there were no injuries. The cyclist turned himself in to the police. The case was investigated, and misdemeanor charges were referred to the Moscow City Attorney's Office. There was no connection with the individual involved in the incident and the current homicide investigations. Regarding the interview with Latah County Prosecutor Bill Thompson, hold on. Sorry, dogs are just being noisy. All right, so regarding the interview with Latah County Prosecutor Bill Thompson, we feel his responses were messaged to support the implication that new information had been released. What did he say? That I don't remember because he did speak out a few times, but uh, whatever he said, somebody didn't like it, so they had to put this in a press release. We feel his responses were messaged to support the implication that new information had been released, specifically generalized statements regarding the potential of targeted victims and the involvement of substances were redefined into an affirmative answer. At this time, there is no change or new information, and references otherwise would be accurate. Blah, blah, blah. Moving on. December 1st, 2022, detectives are aware of a sixth person listed on the lease at the residence, but do not believe that individual was present during the incident. Idaho State Police Forensic Services Crime Lab scientists have worked on this case for weeks and have provided testing and analysis results to detectives. As they complete additional tests, those results will also be provided to protect the investigation's integrity. Specific results will not be released. We remain consistent in our belief that this was a targeted attack, but investigators have not concluded if the target was the residents or it was the occupants. Why would the residents be a target? We continue receiving inquiries about comments made by Latah County Prosecutor Bill Thompson, who said the suspect or suspects specifically looked at the victim's residence and that one or more of the occupants were undoubtedly targeted. Oh, so that's what Bill said in his interview, that they were targeted. But there's nothing to corroborate that. At this time, no suspect has been identified. Still, all right, he doesn't get charged until late December, I think. December 2nd. As detectives move forward with the homicide investigation, a private security company has been contracted to provide some security to free up patrol resources. The scene remains under police control. As we know, the house was torn down, which I thought was a huge, huge, huge mistake that they would tear down a house of a crime scene that hasn't been fully litigated yet. That's a terrible idea, but it is what it is. Um, Detectives are aware of the sixth person they have spoken to, confirmed they moved out prior to the start of the school year and was not present at the time of the incident. Detectives do not believe this person has any involvement. There has been extensive media interest regarding an incident at Taylor Avenue in Banfield. This is talked about very, very frequently by content creators, the whole Banfield video. There were some undercover officers who were dressed in just like street clothes. They were dressed not in their uniforms, and there were some kids running through this field, and they stopped them. So here, all right. So there has been extensive media interest regarding this incident that happened at November 13th at 3:01 a.m., which they're saying is like around the time of the incident. So this incident, or the homicides, I should say, this incident was an alcohol offense which was addressed by the on-scene officer, the undercover officers that just happen to be walking around there. I don't know. This call is not related to the homicide investigations. We remain consistent in our belief that this was a targeted attack, but investigators have not concluded if the target was the residents or the occupants. Well, how, like, that makes no sense. How do you know it was a target if you don't know what was targeted? We continue receiving inquiries about comments made by prosecutor Bill Thompson. Specifically, the victim's residence and that one or more occupants were undoubtedly targeted. Okay, it just keeps repeating itself. The Moscow Police Department is the only provider of official information regarding this case. So they're saying don't listen to Bill. They're saying whatever Bill said, he shouldn't have told you that. And this is only for the Moscow Police Department, the only provider of official information. That was a little shade on Bill Thompson, like, hey man, you're confusing stuff and you need to shut up, which I'm glad they said that. All right, December 3rd. Throughout the investigation, detectives have collected the following: over 2,645 emails, more than 2,770 calls on the tip line, over 1,084 digital media submissions to the FBI, 113 pieces of physical evidence, approximately 4,000 crime scene photos, and multiple three-dimensional scans of the residence. At this time, no suspect has been identified. Just keep repeating the same things. All right, so December 5th. There have been statements and speculation about this case, victim injuries, cause of D, evidence collection and processing, and investigative techniques. Speculation. There's been lots of speculation about this case because investigators have not told us much. I mean, they're telling us a lot, but they're not telling us anything specific to the case. They're telling us a lot of facts about the investigation, but not necessarily that anything that would be, of substance. So there have been many statements and speculation about this case. With the active criminal investigation, law enforcement has not released additional facts to the family or the public. We recognize the frustration this causes and that speculation proliferates in the absence of facts. Exactly. Because you're not giving us facts, people start to speculate and come up with their own reasons as to what happened and why we're not being told what, and it just it snowballs. However, we firmly believe speculation and unvetted information is a disservice to the victims, their families, and our community. Moscow Police Department is committed to providing information whenever possible, but not at the expense of compromising the investigation. Detectives continue investigating what occurred from approximately 9 p.m. on November 12th to 1:45 a.m. on November 13th, when Ethan Zana were believed to be at the Sigma Chi House of the University of Idaho, and then any interactions, contacts, direction, and method of traveling, or anything abnormal could add context to what occurred. Maybe, maybe not. Detectives continue processing and working through more than 2,600 emailed tips, 2,700 phone tips, and over 1,000 digital media submissions. We believe someone has information that will add context to the picture investigators are creating of what occurred that evening. Our focus is the investigation, not the activities. Your information, whether you believe it is significant or not, might be one of the puzzle pieces that help solve those homicides. Using tips and leads, investigators have identified an incident involving Kaylee at a local business, which may have been the stalker reference that she made to friends and family. What else? Did we learn any more about that or no? Because this is the first time I'm hearing any kind of follow up that they learned anything about a stalker. I don't remember them saying this. In mid October, two males were seen inside a local business. They parted ways, and one male appeared to follow Kaylee inside the business. And as she exited to walk toward her car, the male turned away, and it did not appear he made any contact with her. Detectives contacted both males and learned the two were attempting to meet women at the business. This was corroborated through additional investigation. Based on available information, detectives believe this was an isolated incident and not an ongoing pattern of stalking. Why would she think one incident was stalking? A woman knows. A woman has, they have like an instinctive feeling. No evidence suggests the two males were involved in the homicides. Investigators continue looking into information about Kaylee having a stalker. Information about a potential stalker or unusual circumstances should go through the tip line. There has been numerous requests about the dog found at the residence on the morning of November 13th. Arriving officers entered the residence and found the deceased victims. During the search of the home, a dog was found in a room where the crimes had not been committed. Officers did not find any evidence on the dog, and there was no indication the animal had entered the crime scene. The dog was taken to animal services and released to a responsible person. While the dog was in the house when officers arrived, it has not been determined where the dog was physically located when the homicides took place. Well, we now know it was in the upstairs bedroom. I think that was Kaylee's room. I can't remember. Right? Yeah, Kaylee's room. At this time, no suspect has been identified and only vetted. Okay, they keep repeating those lines. Okay. December 6th, starting Wednesday morning, December 7th, and potentially into Thursday, Moscow Police Chief James Fry, along with members of the department, will collect and remove some of the victims' personal belongings from the residence, which are no longer needed for the investigation, so that they can be returned to the families. Since when do police pack up belongings of victims to give back to the families? Because that's what happened. They basically they moved everybody out of that house. They moved out all the furniture just to give the things back to the parents. That doesn't make any sense. These arrangements were made in coordination with families. Anyone near the residence Wednesday morning is asked to keep roads clear. Movement of the items will be done as privately as possible in an effort to maintain respect for the victims and their families. We ask members of the media and community to be respectful of this process. The house remains an active crime scene and progress continues to be made in the investigation. Moscow police and investigative partners continue to work with the victims' families on the investigation and ongoing developments. A video interview for media use and public viewing with Police Chief James Fry is available on the Moscow Police Department YouTube page. Chief Fry explains why the investigative team wanted to handle the delicate and sensitive handling of the victim's close possessions. Detectives continue. It's so weird to me that police are the ones that are unloading the house. They're basically moving the girls out. I don't know why. Like, wouldn't the parents just have to come and do that individually for their own child? Since when is it the responsibility of the police to move you out of your apartment? I don't know. Anyways, detectives continue processing and working through more than 2,600 email tips. Okay, we've got all that again. I'm trying to skip all this repetitive stuff. Detectives are interested in speaking with the occupants of a white 2011 to 2013 Hyundai Elantra with an unknown license plate. This is the first time the Elantra is coming into the press releases, December 7th. Tips and leads have led investigators to look for additional information about a vehicle being in the immediate area of the King Street residence during the early morning hours of November 13th. Investigators believe the occupants of this vehicle may have critical information to share. Doesn't necessarily say they're a suspect, but they may have critical information to share. If you know of or own a vehicle matching this description, or know of anyone who may have been driving this vehicle on the days preceding or the day of the homicides, please forward this information. This is obviously just stock photos that they are showing you. Yes, stock images of this car to give you an idea of what it looks like. That's not actually Bryan Kohberger's car. December 8th, the Moscow Police Department is providing the following information to update the public on the known facts surrounding the four homicides that occurred on November 13th in Moscow, Idaho. Moscow, Idaho, due to the volume of calls with tips and leads coming in about the request for information about the white Hyundai Elantra, the tip line is now directed to the FBI call center. The global call center has the resources to take those calls, categorize them, and send them on to investigators so they can utilize those tips to investigate. Okay, great. Please be aware that the new call process takes patience on behalf of the caller, and there are some prompts to follow. Remember, your tip may be the key to solving the case. Watch an interview of Moscow Police Chief James Fry released today for media and public use of on the channel. I don't want to watch it, but know that it exists. Moscow PD have done plenty of uh, press releases. Bill Thompson has. So um, there is PR out there from this side, from the state side. As previously reported, detectives are interested in speaking with the occupants of the white 2011 to 2013 Hyundai Elantra with an unknown plate. And that's all repetitive. Alrighty. See, I told you guys we would go a whole heck of a lot faster. All right, so the Moscow Police Department is providing the following information to update the public on the known facts surrounding the four homicides that occurred in Moscow, Idaho, November 13th. Investigators have been monitoring online activity related to this ongoing and active case and are aware of the large amount of rumors and misinformation being shared, as well as harassing and threatening behavior towards potentially involved parties. So who's threatening who? Is this potentially maybe people threatening the roommates because it's just so suspicious that they never heard or saw anything other than, the one, Dylan Mortensen, who says that she saw a guy with um, bushy eyebrows. That was her. That was her giveaway. That he had bushy eyebrows and he was walking down the hall. I don't know how he didn't see her. It just doesn't make sense that she kept opening the door because she was hearing noises and I don't know. Anyways, anyone engaging in harassment, whether in person, online, or otherwise, needs to understand that they could be subjecting themselves to criminal charges. Moscow Police Department cautions the public not to rely on rumors and remains committed to keeping the public informed by all means necessary. Update on the white 2011 to 2013 Hyundai Elantra. Investigators would like to thank the community and the public for recent information provided about the vehicle and the spike in tips. The FBI is prioritizing and vetting those tips for the use of the investigation. The public is asked to continue to use the tip line to report any information about that vehicle. All right, great. So when does it turn into the next doesn't it go to like a 2015 Elantra? I don't remember. I can't remember the specifics. All right. December 10th. Sorry for the yawn. um, with commencement this weekend, so graduation was taking place around the end of the mid-year graduation. There will be an influx of people coming in from out of town. Moscow Police Department and Idaho State Police will provide coverage on campus and in the Moscow area. As always, we remind the public to stay vigilant, travel in groups, and communicate with family and friends. What is traveling in groups going to do? Because they were already in pairs and there were four of them. That didn't help them at all. All right. The investigation team, this is now December 12th. The investigation team spent many hours over the weekend going through tips provided to the FBI tip line and the tip line email. Police are still looking for information regarding a 2011 to 2013 Hyundai Elantra. Okay. See an investigation update for December 12th, 2022 on the Moscow Police YouTube channel with Captain Roger Lanier. Oh, so there was another press release. That's what this is. Another press release. So they're using this to update people about the investigation almost on a daily basis and to uh, publish where to send tips, basically. 1 month after the homicides took place, investigators continued to piece together what happened in the hours leading up to the crime in order to determine who is responsible. This while asking the public to stay focused on the official facts released by the Moscow Police Department. Over the past 4 weeks, rumors and speculation have led members of the public to provide tips based on rumors rather than official information provided about the case. The public is reminded that tips should be provided to the Moscow, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So stop giving us your crappy tips. Give us something that's going to really help us, is what they're saying. That was the whole point of this press release. All right, December 15th, investigators are sorting through 22,000 registered 2011 to 2013 Hyundai Elantras that fit into the search criteria and thank the public for providing information about the vehicle. And tips and leads led investigators to ask the public for additional help in searching for the white 2011 to 2013 Hyundai Elantra in the immediate area of the King Road residence during the early morning hours of November 13th. Investigators believe the occupants of this vehicle may have critical information. And again, they keep telling us where their videos are, their press releases, I should say. All right. So December 16th, continuing on, Moscow Police Department. Uh, okay, we don't need to read that first sentence because it's always the same. After sorting through the majority of the digital content gathered from critical cameras during crucial times before and after the homicides took place, investigators continued to comb through hours and hours of digital content submitted by businesses, homes, and the public. Investigators continue to ask the public for additional help in searching for a white 2011 to 2013 Hyundai Elantra in the immediate area of the King Road residence during the early morning hours of November 13th. Investigators believe the occupants of this vehicle may have critical information to share regarding this case. There is a massive amount of digital content to review with a robust team dedicated to handling digital submissions. Other members of the investigation team are dedicated specifically to email tips, while another team is assigned to tip line calls. Okay. Investigative pace will not slow down for the weekend or the holidays, and the departure of University of Idaho students returning home for winter break is not expected to cause any slowdown in the investigation. Let's read a couple more of these and we'll call it a day for this episode. All right. So the number of tips and leads that have come in as part of this December 19th, sorry, the tips and leads have come in as part of the investigation has hit the 10,000 mark. Like that's something to be proud of? I don't know. Investigators continue to have the same level of resources, including a dedicated team reviewing digital content. Digital submissions of tips and leads are not made public by investigators as part of the ongoing commitment to keep information safe because it can be a powerful tool in the investigated investigation process. Progress continues to be made in finding information about a white Hyundai Elantra in the area. Investigators continue to believe the occupants have some info. Well, they keep telling us that progress is being made about finding someone with this Hyundai Elantra, but what? What's the progress? December 20th. Investigators are aware. This is an update at 4:30 p.m. Investigators are aware of a Hyundai Elantra located in Eugene, Oregon, and have spoken with the owner. The vehicle was involved in a collision and subsequently impounded. The vehicle is registered out of Colorado, and the female owner is not believed to have any relation to the property in Moscow, Idaho, or the ongoing investigations. The public is asked to stop contacting the owner. So I guess people were taking it upon themselves. I don't know what the problem was with this particular Hyundai Elantra, but they decided that this was the particular um, suspect vehicle. Crazy. This is what happens when this is how a story can snowball and the speculation can snowball and all the info about the investigation just starts to snowball and then you can't even pull apart fact from fiction anymore because it's just become this story in and of itself, which is kind of what has already happened in the Bryan Kohberger saga. All right, so now here's another video from the Moscow Police Department. We're not going to watch it, but they have a quote here. There have been numerous questions about leadership in this investigation. Let me be clear, this is the Moscow Police Department's investigation, and I am the chief of police. The decisions are mine and mine alone. I have an excellent command staff with over 90 years of combined experience overseeing the investigation's daily operation, and I select who runs the investigative teams, said Moscow Police Chief James Fry. We are supported by highly trained and experienced personnel from the Idaho State Police and the FBI. Their continued resources and knowledge are vital to our success. Our investigative units work under a unified structure and have the autonomy to move forward and solve this case. Despite statements about my team, we remain focused on solving the homicide and seek of the four students to seek justice for them, their families, and to help our community heal. Now we have over 7,600 email tips, over 4,000 phone tips, and over 4,500 digital media submissions. They've conducted over 250 interviews. There are a lot of witnesses in this case as well. It's an insane number. Whether you believe it is sufficient or not, your information might be one of the puzzle pieces to help solve these homicides. Um, this is all repetitive. Let's do this last one and we'll call it a day here. All right, so investigators are processing and working through more than 700. This is what we just read. It really is no different other than maybe a new link, or is it the same? I don't know. We'll skip to the next one here. This will be our last one. This is December 24th, Christmas Eve. Investigators continue working through the holiday break to process, analyze, and work on more than 7,650 email tips, over 4,300 phone tips, and over 4,500 digital media submissions. Um, Our focus remains on the investigation, not an individual's activities displayed in the tip. So if you're trying to like get some, or if you don't want to get someone in trouble, that's okay. Let us know because we're just looking at the investigation. And if you're doing illegal substances and that's part of your alibi, that's okay. Come to us. We don't care about that. We just want to know about the crimes, which I get. That's kind of okay, but whatever. Maybe one of the only things that they did kind of decent. All right, that didn't give us anything. Let's read this one. All right, so the Moscow Police Department providing an update. At this time in the investigation, detectives do not believe the female associate professor and chair of the history department at the University of Idaho suing a TikTok user for defamation is involved in the crime. You guys all remember that? There was um, a TikTok person, a content creator, who was, I think they were claiming to be psychic and saying that this professor, University of Idaho professor, was the actual perpetrator, and she sued them and won. The Moscow Police Department will not provide a statement about the ongoing civil process. I think she won, or she's got a good case. I thought that she won. Maybe I'm wrong, but I thought it already went to trial and was, or at least had a hearing. I don't know. I mean, I'm confusing it with something else. So there have been numerous inquiries from members of the public and media to verify digital media published online. Any picture or video provided through the official public records request process is authentic. However, once a record is released, we can no longer verify its authenticity as we do not know if anything has been altered. So what we give you is authentic, but then once it's released, we can't tell you it's authentic anymore. What? Detectives are aware of videos distributed by local businesses. Investigators believe someone has information that adds context to what occurred on the night of the homicides and continue requesting additional pictures, video, and social media content. Our focus remains on the investigation, not on the individual's activities, as we talked about. So we will, oh, wait, here. This is new. Locate Progress continues to locate the white 2011-2013 Hyundai Elantra believed to be in the immediate area of King Road residence during the early morning hours of November 13th. Investigators believe the occupants may have critical information and have identified over 22,000 vehicles. If you know of or own a vehicle matching this description or know of anyone who may have been driving this specific vehicle on the days preceding or the day of the homicides, please forward that information to the tip line. No suspects still. So at that point, let's stop it there and we will continue on next time around uh, December 29th. And we'll see what else the Moscow PD have to say. This is wild to me. I want to just point out this is wild to me that they are using press releases almost every day to talk about the investigation of this case. So if anybody in town sees these press releases and I'm sure it gets around, word gets around, everybody in town is talking about the investigation. So there really is no ability to go to Latah County and have a fair trial because these press releases are going out every day. People of the community want to know what's happening, so they're engaged and they're tuned in and they're harassing people that might have a car that might be involved because it looks like a car that the people are asking for or that law enforcement's asking about. So they're really trying to it almost seems like they're trying to incite fear and violence and um, scare people. I don't know. To me, it just seems kind of why give information if you really don't have a lot to say yet, or you haven't made a bunch of progress, but you just want to keep saying, well, we've made progress. We're making progress on this. I don't know. I think it's kind of a bad look for law enforcement to be putting out press releases daily or nearly daily regarding an open and active investigation that, yes, you might want to quell the fears of the community, but by doing this daily, putting it in front of their faces every day, that's not going to help. And then their speculation is just going to run rampant after reading these things. So I get why anybody in this area, anyone in the vicinity of this town, might be prejudiced a bit about the case. What do you guys think? We haven't even gotten to the Kohberger part of the case. We were just talking about the investigation so far. So I know that's coming because he gets arrested shortly after or shortly before the new year, I believe. And we're already on December 29th. So, all right. Well, stick in there with me, guys. Thank you for watching. Please hit the like button on your way out. We will be back next time with part 3, and we will continue from where we left off. Thanks so much for joining me. Take care. I'll see you guys next time. Bye now.
If you've been impacted by a true crime and would like your story told in your own words, or if you or someone you know has been wrongfully convicted or accused of a crime, please write to crimeandcourtchannel@gmail.com and tell us your real true crime encounters. Thanks for watching.